Welcome back, everybody. This is another facilitation discussion video. I know some of you facilitate group music making. You know, maybe you're doing drum circles, guided interactive drumming, drum-alongs, different kinds of things with the drums, maybe drum ensembles. I was doing a music therapy group yesterday. I have a group of people with traumatic brain injuries, and I work with them each week. And one of the things we do is we often warm up with some drumming just to get a vibe, get people into music without, any formality. And one of the techniques that is really powerful, I want to share this with you because it's a technique that does a lot of things. It helps people connect with each other. It validates what people are doing. It elevates the voice or the music of somebody in the group. It creates cohesion. It can act as a focal point for launching something else, like a transition. Lots of opportunities, and it's so simple. It's something that I mentioned in my book, The Way of Music. It's a clinical improvisation technique in music therapy because of the way it's used. But the idea, the concept is very, very simple. So here's what that is. You're playing a groove, everybody's playing something, everybody's, grooving. And you as the facilitator or organizer of community drumming, you notice that somebody's doing something, that there's a feature of what they're doing, and the feature is standing out to you, and it probably is like a little rhythm or something that they are repeating, right? So let's just say that somebody's doing this. And you notice that, right? So then what you do is you do the same thing. And you bring it out. Maybe it can be anywhere. It could be any voice, or you could say it. A lot of times I use my voice. Bit, bit. I'll just play a groove. And then if somebody's doing that, I'll just vocalize. Bit, bit. Hey, hey, and I'll just kind of accent it. Da. Whoa, whoa. And I'll throw something out there. Bit, bit. And usually what happens is a couple things. First of all, the person doing it is now pretty sure that they're being heard. Why? Because we're echoing or repeating or synchronizing. We're reinforcing what they're doing. So that's validation. We're connecting. We're not all doing a lot of different things. I'm connecting with them, which reinforces that musical element, which creates cohesion, right? It reduces the amount of different things happening and increases the amount of similar things happening, right? So that's cohesion. It also draws attention to that part. So there's a focus factor there. So if people weren't kind of paying attention, if they're just kind of lost in their own world, now they're like, oh, what's going on? Something's happening. It creates opportunities for people to change the music, when the music changes and then it kind of goes into a new area, we call that a modulation. It's a type of modulation. So it can refresh the music that's happening if the music's been droning on for a long time and it feels like there's nothing new happening. Just pointing out a feature and amplifying that feature through the technique that's called synchronizing, or in this case, I call it tagging, because it is, you're momentarily synchronizing. You're just synchronizing for a moment, right? So you can call it synchronizing, but it's not complete synchronizing completely would be playing exactly what somebody else is playing. I'm sorry, I call it marking, not tagging. It was going to be called tagging. And I decided to just call it marking. You're just marking like a feature, right? You're connecting with it. That's my term. Maybe other people have other terms. You can call it, momentary synchronization, but that's a little too long, I think. So I just say we're going to mark that. We're marking that, all right? It's like putting a highlight. You could call it highlighting if you want. Highlighting something. All right, doesn't really matter the word you use. But the point is, it's now drawing attention. It's a focal point. And if you say vocalize, like I often do, now we can attach a word to it. We can attach a sound. And there's another level of participation because then people will start to, as they often do, vocalize. Once you introduce an idea like, "Hey, we're gonna say woo woo," people will jump on that and they'll contribute. And there might be a word, like I said, ka-ching or ya or hey now, whatever it is, and that will prompt other creative things to happen and other ideas. Yeah, people will just kind of take it and run with it. So there's a lot of things that can happen as a result of doing something that's pretty simple. But I do want to rewind for a second and point out that at the beginning of this video, I was doing something that does require a certain amount of skill. And so even though these techniques are simple conceptually, they're not always that easy to do. Why? Because you need to have the skill of being able to play, for example, and do what I'm doing right now, which is talk, have a conversation. So I'm kind of doing two things right now, right? I'm playing a groove and I'm talking, and I'm relating that to the skill. I know it's not the same thing I'm talking about when I talk about synchronizing, but you kind of need that extra overhead. You need to be able to attend to what's going on, pay attention, right? Watching, what is he doing, what is she doing? And then you need to be able to integrate it into your own playing on top of what you're doing, right? You need to be able to hear it, analyze what you're doing or what they're doing, and then bring it out. So those are a lot of skills, actually. Try it out and see how you do with that. Maybe you could try it with a friend, or just imagine somebody's playing something and see how well you do playing different rhythms. Because sometimes the things that people are playing are not necessarily that easy to integrate. That one's pretty easy, but sometimes they're different, So you need to be able to go to that person's music and amplify it. And the idea is not to change it. The idea is to follow it and synchronize with them. And that's how we honor what they're doing, and that's how we validate what they're doing, right? So the idea is not to lead them in another direction. This is a supportive technique. It's a technique that amplifies the voice of one of your participants and maybe leads to some sort of modulation or something new in the music. But like I said, let's just recap. So the skill is synchronizing. And I do cover this in my book with a lot of other techniques. The book's called The Way of Music, Making Sound Connections in Music Therapy. And it validates, it creates cohesion, it connects people to each other through the music, so there's personal connections. It opens up opportunities for connection and creativity for everyone in the group. All right, so it does a lot of things. It's really powerful. It's one of the few techniques I use all the time because it's just simple, but it's really effective. And it's non-invasive. You're not changing the music. You're just amplifying something that's already there. And I want to leave you with that idea that facilitation is not about directing people and telling people what to do and conducting them. All right, facilitation is not about having an agenda that you impose upon the group. So it's, what is it? It's about helping the people that you're working for and with, helping those people create what they want to create with a little bit more ease, a little bit more fun, a little bit more stability, a little bit more effectiveness, help them along. That's what facilitation is. So anything you can do along those lines is going to be moving you into, what I think of as real facilitation or pure facilitation, not what some people call facilitation, which can be very intrusive and where you're like a dictator, telling people what to do, starting, stopping, to play this, play that, do this, do that. That's not really facilitation. That is conducting or leading, which, there's a time and a place for some of that. It's okay. I'm not saying you shouldn't ever do that. I'm just saying that that by itself is not facilitation so much. So if you want to be a facilitator of music, this technique, a music-based technique that honors the music of your participants, amplifies their voice, helps them connect, gives them some other options, elevates the connection in the community, is validating, all of those good things. That, I think, I believe is closer to what we want to do as facilitators. All right, so that's what I have for you in this video. What do you think? Have you done this with a group? What helpful tips would you add? Do you have any advice for somebody that would like to try this? Have you had successes? You can leave them in the comments. If you're watching this on the Patreon site, you can leave your comments and you can send me a question there. If you have any questions for me, send them through the Patreon message system. If you're not sure what that is, go to patreon.com/Kalani and join. And good luck with all your music making efforts and your facilitation efforts too. All right, I'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.